Chairman Barletta, Ranking Member Carson, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today. This is my first time testifying before Congress, and I'm glad to do it here at the Transportation Subcommittee on Economic Development, especially to discuss the important topic of disaster mitigation. I'm honored to serve with all of you. I'd like to take the opportunity to share some thoughts on controlling the rising costs of the federal government when responding to disasters. I'm a native of South Florida, and my good friend, Mr. Sires, who is working with me on this issue, is from New Jersey. We both have a deep and personal understanding of the devastating impacts of natural disasters on families and communities, and have seen firsthand what happens when homes, schools, and businesses aren't built to withstand the forces of nature. My family and I lived through Hurricane Andrew back in 1992. Fortunately, in my part of town, the damage was not extreme. But just a few miles south, where some of my family members lived, the devastation was horrifying. Being a Floridian, I know that we have pretty strong state building codes already on the books. But at the national level, it is time to fix the broken federal system that is riddled with red tape, waste, fraud, and abuse. There is some great work already being done in the field of pre-disaster mitigation, and I'd like to thank Chairman Barletta for being a strong leader on the issue. Over the last 30 years, we have seen a significant increase in federally declared natural disasters. But instead of taking additional steps to focus more on preparing for these disasters with enhanced building codes to make communities safer, the federal government typically waits until after a disaster occurs to react. This is incredibly dangerous and costly, especially with the increase in extreme weather events. According to the Weather Channel, this hurricane season is supposed to be the most active since 2012. So this hearing and these issues are of the utmost importance and very timely. For these reasons, my friend, Mr. Sires, who knows firsthand in New Jersey just how costly cleanup is after a disaster, have introduced legislation to work towards promoting stronger building codes at the national level by introducing H.R. 5177, the National Mitigation Investment Act of 2016. This legislation works to alleviate losses to resident and commercial property following a natural disaster through preventative measures. It would provide incentives for the adoption and achievement in enforcing state building codes. We do this by allowing the President to increase mitigation assistance following a natural disaster by 4% based off of the price of cleanup, but only if the state is enforcing building codes. This incentive can encourage states and localities to be proactive in future building and also save a lot of funds in the long run. The bill would also create a pilot program to award grants to state and local governments to encourage the adoption and enforcement of nationally recognized building codes. The goals of the grant program are to reduce disaster response and recovery costs by increasing resilience of buildings and reducing the amount of damage that occurs due to disaster and chronic flooding. Grant awardees will be required to accomplish these goals with non-federal matching funds, no less than 25%, and FEMA will be required to provide reports back to Congress on the success of the program. Mr. Chairman, the residents of both Florida and New Jersey have had to rebuild communities after the devastating effects of catastrophic natural disasters. Returning to a life of normalcy is tremendously difficult and can take many years. Furthermore, chronic tidal flooding poses a significant threat to real estate along our waterfront communities, especially in my South Florida district and the constituents that Mr. Sires represents as well. This undoubtedly affects insurance rates, property values, clean water supplies, and general public welfare. We believe that through preemptive methods of incentivizing state and local governments to adhere to stronger building codes, we will alleviate the burdens and costs of the federal government after a natural disaster. I thank my friend, Mr. Sires, for working with me on this legislation. I look forward to hearing from other experts on the issue of disaster mitigation in the next panel. This is a topic that requires perspectives from diverse geographical locations and multiple industries. And I appreciate being able to discuss my bill today. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your testimony.